We're back. We've gotten some stuff done, although it's only been a few months. Yeah, a lot of it was explaining things happening. But yes, let's go. Off to the next event. Session of the Supreme Council. At the beginning of the month, the next session of the Supreme Council is due to take place, where, due to the death of Chernenko, a new chairman of the Presidium of the Supreme Soviet of the USSR, the head of the Soviet state, will be elected. According to the tradition established since 1977, this position is usually occupied by the General Secretary of the Central Committee. This was the case under Brezhnev, Andropov, and Chernenko. But who should it be this time? The first is Kunetsov, who is currently acting as chairman of the Presidium. Gromyenko is an experienced specialist who has held a wide variety of party positions. Then there's Lukyanov, a long-time foreign minister, respected both at home and abroad. And then I can also just nominate my own candidacy. Nominate myself. Comrade deputies, the Central Committee of the party, Presidium, and both chambers of the Supreme Council believe that I would be the best candidate for the position of chairman of the Presidium. His purposeful, energetic, proactive activities as General Secretary, his business and human qualities, experience, and political wisdom earned him universal respect, trust, and sympathy of the party and people. The election of the Secretary General to the position of chairman will serve the highest interests of our society and state. And yes, now I have the position. They did change doctrines around. It's one of the ways that can happen. It was here, and now it's here. This gives me more political authority at the cost of civil liberties. That's fine. I'll find other ways to increase it. It says I need the political power to do things. World Festival of Youth and Students. Preparations. Next week, the 12th World Festival in Youth and Students is due to open in Moscow. It is a very difficult international situation. In a very difficult international situation, we must be on alert and minimize possible provocations from Western opponents, who are ready to attack the authority of our country at any moment. In order to avoid possible conflicts, some party members propose to take measures to protect citizens from the possible harmful influence of foreigners. However, as the practice of previous Soviet mega events have shown, bans usually lead to a diametrically opposite result and give rise to false accusations of the democracy of our system. They're not false, but I definitely want to work on that. Give them carte blanche to criticize superpowers and allow free communication between our citizens and foreigners. According to a secret key intended for the intelligence services, it was decided to abandon the regulation of topics and the creation of an acceptable framework for discussion. Now, the slogan. The initial objectives of the World Festival were the struggle for peace, for the rights of youth, for the independence of peoples, and the promotion of internationalism. Communist, socialist, and religious organizations took an active part in the festivals. Representatives of a wide range of youth organizations opposing fascism and military dictatorships came to the festival. Representatives of radical leftist organizations, including those outlawed in their countries, were allowed to participate. Particular attention was paid to the issue of the inadmissibility of the revival of fascism and the incitement of a new world war. Now it's the time to have the 12th World Festival in Moscow. What will its slogan be? Let's increase the influence of the reformers. Globalize the fight for peace, solidarity, and development. We are for the strength, energy of the people, the genius of humanity to be directed not to the creation of more and more means of destruction, but to the elimination of hunger, poverty, disease, to the goals of prosperity and peaceful development. However, the festival did not pass without incident. The report on the work of the Student Council at the Festival 85 reported on cases where representatives of the student youth from abroad during various festival events put forward the thesis about the equal responsibility of the two superpowers for the arms race and condemned Soviet intervention in the internal affairs of Afghanistan, which has given us decisive relief. Okay, I can finagle the budget at mid. Increase that. I can handle that. Okay. Star Wars. Oh no, not the Star Wars program. In March 1983, President Reagan announced the beginning of the development of the SDI, which involves the creation of ancient missile weapons, of anti-missile weapons, ancient missile weapons, in space with the aim of delivering an unanswered nuclear strike. An expert group of Soviet scientists and specialists came to the conclusion that the initiative most likely does not require immediate countermeasures, since it is impossible to implement at this level of technological development. However, the generals believe that this program will over time be able to stimulate the development of new military technologies and will lead to a further lag in the field of weapons. At the same time, some military officers proposed returning to the conclusions the commission led scientists led by Velikov. The commission recommends an asymmetric response of SDI, which, as scientists believe, will cost less than a full-scale response program. But it should be noted that the situation in the world is now tense to the limit, and the actions of the USSR will cause retaliatory measures from the Americans. Is it worth de-escalating the conflict, or will opponents perceive this as a sign of weakness? That's gonna be, yeah, no. It's a bad idea to do anything about it because they're right. Even today, something like the Star Wars program would be ludicrous to try. Just protest, make a lot of noise about it on the diplomatic level, but don't actually do anything about it. At the next meeting of the UNSC, representatives of the Soviet Union protested to the Americans against the development of the SDI program. Mr. Reagan should bury the idea of the SDI and confirm the U.S. commitment to the ABM Treaty, signed in 1972. The U.S. administration is acting irresponsibly, putting the world at risk of a new world war. In response, the Americans pointed out that the creation of SDI is an internal matter of the U.S., and the project itself is exclusively peaceful in nature and is aimed at strengthening defensive capability of the country. Nothing is forgotten. The alleged grave of Nazi criminal and sadist Joseph Mengele, a man who worked in the notorious Auschwitz concentration camp, was found in Brazil recently. During his 21 months of work in Auschwitz, he earned his reputation as one of the most cruel Nazis, getting the nickname Angel of Death. He conducted inhumane experiments on prisoners, sewn twins back to back, amputated organs without anesthesia, tried to change eye color using chemicals to conform prisoners according to the racial theory. Unfortunately, this monster was not destined to suffer the punishment he deserved. After the war had ended, he managed to escape to Argentina, and later moved to Brazil, where he died. Some public figures, due to the 40th anniversary of the Great Victory in the Great Patriotic War, proposed to hold an anti-fascist month to once again remember the victims of fascism and honor the memory of the dead. We can also offer Brazil to carry out this campaign together, which will improve relations between our countries. Hold a conference with the Brazilian leader. As of relations between Brazil and the US are deteriorating, they are increasingly gravitating towards cooperation with us. But the internal political situation in Brazil leaves much to be desired. Apparently, the president of the new republic will not last long. How they're doing? Liberal conservatism. The influence of Americanism was increased. Okay, are there any decisions I can do? Sessions, regions. The fate of a disgraced academician. 1980, Nobel Peace Prize laureate and academician Sakharov, known for his dissident views, was stripped of all state awards and expelled from Moscow to the closed city of Gorky for criticizing our troops' involvement in Afghanistan. Over these 5 years, he repeatedly held hunger strikes against the persecution of his family members. At the end of July, he sent us a letter asking us to allow his wife, Bonner, to travel abroad for treatment and to meet relatives. Promises to stop public appearances, except for exceptional cases, and concentrate on scientific work. However, what could be the political consequences of this decision? On the one hand, Bonner can request asylum in the West and subsequently seek family reunification. But we can't release him abroad since he knows every detail of the entire path of development of our atomic weapons. On the other hand, this will be a humane step and will contribute to improving relations with Western countries. Sure, let him go. Good, he kept his promise. Thank you. Recruitment. Recently, our agents managed to contact CIA officer Aldrich Anders. Not so long ago, he was transferred to the department that organizes operations on the territory of our country, and therefore he gained access to the personal data of American agents in the Soviet Union. Ever since he began his work at the CIA, periodically went on a drinking binge and fell into depression, claiming that he was disillusioned with the way American foreign policy appeared to him. However, now he will be able to help us in exchange for a certain amount of money and the payment of all his debts, which accumulated a lot over the years. Use the services once. Good. Oh, I've got modern computer architectures done now. Okay. I need engineering points. Cybernetic points? Physics points, okay. Need something to spend the physics points on. Start working on nuclear tech. But yes, with the development, okay. Average loyalty needs to be about 50 for this one. Great. Unified OS. Every year, computers become more capable and more accessible. However, in order to unlock new possibilities, it is necessary to use software that is completely different than before, specifically an operating system that simplifies interaction with the computer. Domestic programmers have created several variations of operating systems, which have their disadvantages and advantages. Choosing one of them as the main one will set the vector of development for Soviet electronics for many years to come. AMDOS. Comparable with the worldwide MS-DOS operating system, has detailed documentation and is the most convenient, and we plan to continue to engage in industrial espionage. INMOS works on absolutely any model of domestic EVMs, and due to ease of installation portability, is the most convenient option for installation. CSI-DOS, the most advanced operating system, which supports only color mode, which is a breakthrough and a great achievement, and can also work with music equipment, but not all domestic EVMs will be able to support it because of the high requirements for hardware. MIS, a unique and promising domestic operating system. The only OS that was not an adaptation of Western developments, but because of this is not supported by all our EVMs. Can't do INMOS. Not loyal enough. So MIS. Let's go with CS-DOS. I've got the money to afford CSI-DOS. It's the most expensive one, but I've got the money to afford it. And I can, in fact, take the decision. This advanced one. Death of Samantha. A plane in the American airline Bar Harbor Airlines crashed while approaching the runway at Auburn-Lewiston Station. According to UPI, all 8 passengers and crew members on board perished. Among them was a 13-year-old American schoolgirl, Samantha Smith, and her father, Arthur Smith. Her name was well known in the USSR and across around the world. In July 1983, she visited the USSR at the invitation of the Soviet public organizations. Upon return to the US, she published a book about her meetings with Soviet children. The deepest desire of Soviet children is to preserve peace on the planet. I know that my fellow citizens, or Americans, wish the same. Therefore, we must unite our efforts in the struggle for clear sky over the planet, she said last year. Just a historical event with no real consequences in-game anyway. So what's that event? Ministerial leapfrog. Over the last 5 years, the government of the USSR has been headed by Tikhonov, an elderly man who began his career during the reign of Stalin in the 1930s. Many considered him a tough handyman manager who is completely uninterested in political issues and shuns any intrigue. However, over these years, he's failed to formulate any serious and holistic program for the country's development. If we are to start with reforms, then we need to create a new team who will implement these reforms. Right. We've got Shabitsky, first secretary of the Central Committee in Ukraine. He's closely acquainted with the president. Okay. There's Vorodnikov and Ryskov. Or we can just keep him in his position. What ambitious. I need to continue empowering the reformers, so come on in, Ryskov. Empowering the reformers is going to be my first and most important step. Does seem they're getting stronger. Mitterrand's invitation. We have received an invitation from President Mitterrand to make an official visit to France in early October this year. He won the election in 1981 as a candidate from the United Left-Wing parties. At the moment, while conservatives dominate in the rest of Western Europe and the US, France remains one of the few countries where socialists are in power. On the one hand, we should not miss any opportunity to continue to taunt and contribute to strengthening peace. However, after we had to enter Afghanistan, relations with France have sharply deteriorated, and its leadership now constantly looks to the US in its actions. Nevertheless, we can try to use this visit to break the vicious Atlantic alliance between the US and Europe, because Europe has a common home for all of us, but not for the Americans. But is it worth the effort? Focus on China? Or just rely on ourselves and our allies? It's also third world countries. A month ago, the Americans convened the so-called Democratic Internationale, which included various anti-communist insurgent organizations from different countries in Africa, America, and Asia. I'm sure the Contras were one of those included. Accept the invitation. Europe is our common home. Oh, it was a positive outcome. Okay. Historic continuity in relations between the USSR and France and spoke against any attempts by some powers to undermine the cause of détente in Europe. Overall, the meeting between the two countries' leaders was more than successful. Special Forces loyalty is getting I'm going to pay attention. But the integrated food supply program is done, which is good. I need to work on agriculture. And I do need to see if I can find somewhere else to put military points, since I've filled out on them. I can't even work on military satellites just yet. Oh, perhaps. But with agricultural, I can adopt a new food program in order to deal with the current state of agriculture. But I should handle the event first, that's for sure. The new program. Okay. Now that priorities of the party and state are changing, there's a need in a new program. Naturally, there's no consensus on what should be included and what could be promised. Hooray! Some propose restoring the characterization of the modern era as a struggle between socialism and capitalism. Others insist on postponing the prospect of communism and focusing on perfecting the social system. There are even those who deny the existence of socialism in the Soviet Union. Sadly, there's not enough. There's none of this works, so I can't pick this one, which would be true. The socialist system definitely needs to be modernized.
Пролетарский транспортир был построен новый робот под названием Майдадыр. И для сауны партийной, и для бани заводской будет каждому полезен робот многоцелевой.
Okay, right.
Воплощая все советские мечты, должен первый банный робот встать на страже чистоты и умело покоряя инженерный
Food program. The 1985 plenum on CPSU and subsequent plenums delivered a critical assessment of the state of the country's food production, highlighting the need for radical changes in agrarian policy. The plenum identified the following negative factors hindering economic agricultural growth: low labor motivation among collective farmers, inefficient resource use, outdated material and technical base, underdeveloped infrastructure, and ineffective management system. On what basis? Numerous agricultural reform projects have been presented recently. We're sending you the most thoroughly developed options. 1. Development of large, science-intensive agro-industrial complexes that integrate the entire production cycle of agricultural products, from cultivation to processing to distribution. Okay. 2. Complete nationalization of agriculture. I'm not doing that. Recognition of equal rights for the various forms of socialist ownership. That means production while abandoning the outdated collective farming system. Greater flexibility and possibility with experimenting with different farming models. Before transition to a capital... No, I'm not doing capitalism.
Когда утром с позаранку встал Василий, пионер, Васькин дядя в транспортире был ведущий инженер. И не знал еще мальчишка, что в квартире номер 6 был оставлен банный робот Майдадыр, каков он есть. Вдруг из маминой спальни кривоногий и хромой появляется не папа, снов горячечный герой, смотрит, как на лилипута.
Adopt the mixed model program. Monthly influence from agriculture power. I can focus less time on Of course, the optimal economic model is market transitional, and this is expensive to pick. I can postpone the decision? Nah. Adopt mixed model. This approach involves rejecting outdated dogmas and the artificial division of ownership forms into lower and to higher, lower, sequential and non-sequential socialists. Instead, a broad path will be open for diverse farming models based on cost accounting and economic autonomy. The new agrarian policy aims to overcome entrenched stereotypes and create conditions for the equal development of all forms of socialist ownership. As one reform initiator stated, we must abandon dogmatic approaches that have led to the high management costs in agriculture. Only through the diversity of farming methods and extensive use of cost accounting relations can we unlock the agricultural sector's potential. The main principles of this reform include equality of all farming forms, broad introduction of cost accounting relations, support for initiative, and decentralization of management. Only time will tell how successful this is. It's the most effective one, for now. It will become even better if, as I update the economic system towards my preferred direction. Negative effects of an unsuitable economic model. I can work around that. Eventually. Geneva. In the coming months, a summit is set to take place in Geneva where General Secretary, well, me, and the US President will meet. This will be the first high-level meeting between the leaders since 1979, when the SALT II Treaty was signed. The key issue of the upcoming meeting is overcoming the freeze of recent years of the Cold War. During the negotiations, the main task was formulated: the radical reduction of offensive nuclear weapons. However, for us and the world at large, the issue of American SDI development remains problematic. So it essentially threatens the 1972 ABM Treaty. Leave the SDI for now. First outcome. Oh, that's going to severely worsen their stats. Despite successful agreements after the meeting, Reagan signed an order for additional funding for the SDI project. Look at how much the US stats has lowered this. The military leadership is not happy with this, but don't worry. I have a fairly high quantity. Yakovlev, okay. Okay, today the issue is not in the economy, this is only the materials. The nail is the political system, or rather, its work, its movement, its focus on the individual, its connections with the individual, and the extent of its official role. No matter how much we improve one or another sphere, direction, part of the mechanism, the overall coherence, there will be no benefit from improvement in it. Decision will be here to consider Yakovlev's proposal. Maybe someday, but country's too unstable for much. Tanker wars. The war between Iraq and Iran has been going on for more than 5 years with varying degrees of intensity. At the same time, the relative peaceful movement of merchant ships in the Persian Gulf has been ensured for some time. However, in early 1984, in an attempt to provoke foreign intervention in the war, Iraq attacked Iranian oil tankers near Karg Island. Tanker conflicts continued for the next 2 years. Kuwait recently asked the superpowers to protect Kuwaiti tankers from continuous attacks from Iran. The U.S. had initially ignored the request, but changed its stance after the USSR provided Kuwait with several of its tankers. Additional U.S. Navy forces were sent to the Persian Gulf and began escorting them. As a result, the U.S. launched a large-scale operation against Iranian oil platforms. You must do something about this to prevent the expansion of American influence in the Middle East. Oh, my voice is starting to get tired. Protest against U.S. intervention. Actually, wait, is the decision available yet? Ah, excellent. This will get me more research speed. The next plenum of the Central Committee begins. The Central Committee may not re-elect you for the next term. I can try to work against the other factions. I'll keep the plenum peaceful in order to have get a large buff in all the loyalties, and yeah. But I think the best option would be to weaken the conservatives. I can't oppose the moderates right now, so... How does it look? Might take a moment for it to properly go through. Spain and Portugal joined the European Economic Community. Just over a decade ago, both countries shed the yoke of dictatorship and transitioned to democracy. Negotiations took several years, and were accompanied by intense political battles and public debates. Not much I can do about it. And the reformers are the leading faction, so... And here we are, the informal socialists are in. Yeah, start supporting them. Oil crisis. Another meeting of the oil ministers of OPEC countries took place, at which the principles of abandoning quotas and price coordination were confirmed. As a result, oil prices began to fall rapidly. Uh-oh. In all this, the Americans and Saudis are clearly involved. Double oil production. Gulf War. Right, I remember reading this a couple times, so... Before the Gulf War, the Soviet Union was trying to buddy up with both Iraq and Iran, and then problems. Postpone decision. No neo-Stalinists. Neo-Stalinists, yeah, okay. Text escapes from... Shadow War, oh no. They're supplying the Mujahideen mount pods, really. Oh, no. Fine. That's new. Non-labor income. Really? Palace-like houses? Technically proposed to pone the issue and forget about it. Send the draft decree for revision. Let's see what happens. I would prefer the first option. It has a better effect than that. This one. Second outcome. Great. Fine. I'm still settling into the job. How long does the modifier last? Till March. It is March. Commissar Catini. Economic corruption became all-encompassing and in essence legal, especially in Central Asia, where it was embedded in the system of traditional relationships. The Uzbek cotton affair. It's on paper. Oh. US started bombing Libya. Large Soviet military operation. Just express protest. Oh. The Chernobyl accident happened. Oh no. Urgently eliminate the consequences and begin evacuation. This was the right decision. Oh, I was hoping to be able to avoid that by researching. Oh, I have not been paying attention to tech for a while, have I? Network-centric operations. Okay. Let's focus on trying to get more research up. It's also the fact that I've definitely researched at least some tech. Second wave of unscientific philosophy. Postmodern society. Oh. That's going to get in the way. Let's see. Focus on quality.
Площади живой, живой, живой.
Afghan thought. What to do about Afghanistan?
Советский дирижабль, советы Ильича, пропеллер сверкают, как лезвие меча, стремится к небосводу его тугой баллон. Советский дирижабль, как партия, силен.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Советский дирижабль несет опасный груз. Враги его напалма отведают на вкус. Грохочут механизмы на тяге паровой.
Start the taunt. I need to keep them keep things under control.
Советский дирижабль, советы Ильича, буржуев покарает рукою палача. Зловещий рык моторов и урагана свист, а в бункере глубоком дрожит капитан.
Play some supporters for moderate reforms. The reserve will be depleted in a month. Uh-oh.
Последний поэт деревни, скромен в песнях дощатый мост за прощальной
That's the Jewish shit on this oblast.
кадящих листвой.
Financial crisis.
На тропу голубого поля скоро выйдет железный гость. Злак овсяный, зарею пролитый, соберет его черная горсть. Неживые чужие ладони этим песням при вас не жить, только будут
Death of Lutan. Ledu.
колосья кони, а хозяине старом тужить. Будет ветер сосать их ржанье, панихидный справляя пляс. Скоро, скоро часы деревянные прохрипят мой 12-й час. Скоро,
Take no action.
скоро часы деревянные прохрипят мой 12-й час. Россию буржуям умом не понять.
А что есть такое ваш Кузькина мать?
Прогнившей Европе дадим мы ответ. На свете страшнее оружия нет. Кузькина мать, эх, Кузькина мать, будут буржуи трусливо бежать. Кузькина мать, эх, Кузькина мать, будут буржуи трусливо бежать. Станет Америка нам говорить,
We want the санкции жестко вводить.
врагу мы сумеем
Pharmacy
урок
trade.
преподать. Покажем Америке Кузькину мать. Кузькина мать, эх, Кузькина мать, будут буржуи трусливо бежать. Кузькина мать, эх, Кузькина мать, будут буржуи трусливо бежать.
They're all conspiring against me, aren't they?
Кузькина мать, эх, Кузькина мать, будут буржуи трусливо бежать. Кузькина мать, эх, Кузькина мать, будут буржуи трусливо бежать. Кузькина мать, эх, Кузькина мать, будут буржуи трусливо бежать.
So much going on.
Кузькина мать, будут буржуи трусливо бежать. Читаем дружить, товарищ, веская есть причина. На каждой твоей футболке надпись «Мадейчина». А тем, кто еще не в курсе, несем мы добрую весть. В каждом электроприборе деталь китайская есть. Это мощная турбина, перекрестие орбит. От Москвы и до Пекина эта песня пролетит. Бьется песня боевая от Янзы и до Невы. От России до Китая, от Пекина до Москвы. Все, кто рожден в России, читали трактат Сунь-Цзы. И то, что писал Конфуций, это для русских азы. Великую стену китайскую видим из космоса мы. И стойкий дух Шаолиня все так же тревожит умы. Это мощная турбина, перекрестие орбит. От Москвы и до Пекина эта песня пролетит. Бьется песня боевая от Янзы и до Невы. От России до Китая, от Пекина до Москвы.
劳动使成为世界的主人，
全世界无产者联合起来，
若无劳动，万事皆空。
劳动终将胜利，人民必会胜利。
打倒一切反动派。El pueblo unido jamás será vencido。共产主义社会一定来到，向雷锋同志学习。
世界人民大团结万岁！
战无不胜的劳动人民万岁！
人民万岁！为人民服务，劳动最光荣。
太平世界，环球同此凉热。
党和人民考验我们的时候到了。
让全世界无产阶级团结在科学发展的旗帜下，向着共产主义的未来。
Conspiracies are happening all over the place, aren't they? Trying to keep ahead of them, but everyone's conspiring at least something.
Бьется грозным драконом желтой реки тело. Но мы, дорогой товарищ, в Китай отправляемся смело. Сильную руку протянет тебе китайский собрат. Дружба России с Китаем крепка, как железный канат. Это мощная турбина, перекрестие орбит. От Москвы и до Пекина эта песня пролетит. Бьется песня боевая от Янзы и до Невы. От России до Китая, от Пекина до Москвы.
How do I point to... That's almost everyone.
Беспощадно и опасно пролетает над столицей. Называют не напрасно Надю красной дьяволицей. Смотрит прямо, хмурит брови, страшен взгляд ее колючий. А по венам вместо крови керосин бежит горючий.
Правила Крупской Нади, все революции ради. Правила Крупской Нади, все революции ради.
Правила Крупской Нади, все революции ради. Правила Крупской Нади,
I add to the political
все
room.
революции ради. В темноте мелькают фары и напуганные лица. Маршируют комиссары, рядом с ними дьяволица. Чтобы сталь не потускнела и броня держала прочно. Надя знает свое дело, бьет уверенно и точно. Правила Крупской Нади, все революции ради. Правила Крупской Нади, все революции ради. Правила Крупской Нади, все революции ради. Правила Крупской Нади, все революции ради.
Huh.
Правила Крупской Нади, все
Are these new informal socialists? Yes. I'll finish the month and then call it for this session. Definite hunger strike. Ignore. Uh-oh. Penetration of postmodernism has activated. Okay. Right, I definitely need to work on improving the loyalty. As a military, this is getting bad. Especially considering that the can't allow the budget to fall apart. Okay, I'll finish this off after reading this. I need to stop at some point this session. In the capitalist countries of the West, a deep crisis is growing not only in the economy but also in culture. Bourgeois society, deprived of progressive ideals and striving for a bright future, is sinking ever deeper into the quagmire of moral decay. One manifestation of this decline is the so-called postmodernism, a philosophical and cultural movement that promotes relativism, denies objective truth, and rejects the struggle for justice. Postmodernism, actively promoted by Western intelligentsia, is becoming an ideological cover for justifying inequality, exploitation, and social injustice. Instead of fighting the vices of capitalism, its apologists suggest we embrace chaos and enjoy the play of meanings. This is nothing more than an attempt to distract the working class from real problems, cloud their minds, deprive them of their will to fight for their rights. Western morality, based on the cult of individualism and consumerism, has long been in deep crisis. Instead of the high ideals of humanism and collectivism, capitalist society offers people substitutes in the form of endless entertainment, low-quality art, and primitive values. Cinema, literature, music, all of it turns into a conveyor belt that stupefies the masses and robs them of critical thinking. Of particular concern is the way postmodernism and Western morality influence youth. Instead of instilling in young people a desire for knowledge, justice, and labor, the capitalist system imposes a cult of hedonism, permissiveness, and cynicism. Western youth are losing their bearings, becoming easy prey for manipulators from large corporations and political elites. Ooh, yeah, it's bad. Hopefully I can keep things under control. Let me just save the game. So. Well, that's good for now. I'll see you again next time. Till then, bye. I hope the